Soldier Field along the shores of Lake Michigan is the home of the Chicago Bears again in 1972 for the second straight season. And there's a new head coach for a team whose history only rarely has been interrupted by such changes. The new man is volatile, intensely dedicated Abe Gibron, who represents only the sixth different head coaching regime in the 53 years of the Bears. He is as strong and long on leadership as he was great in his NFL playing days. His demands are simple: effort, action, aggressiveness, discipline. Opening day brought the Atlanta Falcons, and the Bears weren't quite ready on either offense or defense. Yet, there were individual efforts worth noting. Jim Harrison, number 35, ran for 115 yards on the ground. Quarterback Bobby Douglas added another 70. The Bears would rush for more than 200 yards as a team, and Douglas threw 2 scoring strikes, one to fifth-round draft pick Bob Parsons, and one to second-year man Earl Thomas, number 82. Mistakes put them 31-7 behind at the half, and their game second-half comeback was too late for a recovery. At that, they held Atlanta to 2 field goals in the second half.
In Chicago's Soldier Field last Sunday, many fans mourned the retirement of all-time NFL halfback Gale Sayers. But Chicago's new coach Abe Gibron found a new friend, second-year running back Jim Harrison, who had previously been known, if at all, as Joe Moore's running mate at Missouri. Now that Joe Moore was hurt again, the burden of the Chicago ground game fell to Jim Harrison, number 35. Against Atlanta, Harrison carried 20 times for 113 yards. Gale Sayers would have approved. Even the officials were impressed. Jim Harrison climaxed a brilliant opening day performance with a fourth-quarter touchdown, which did not win the game, but which won a standing ovation from the Soldier Field throng. Despite Jim Harrison's heroics, the Bears' longest run of the day was a quarterback keeper by Bobby Douglas. To complement his cannonball running style, Douglas used his cannon arm to fire a touchdown to rookie tight end Bob Parsons from Penn State. In slow motion, it is possible now to analyze each move: the fake to the running back, the drop back, the step up, and then the cannon fires. Number 82, second-year tight end Earl Thomas held on long enough for a touchdown.
The following week, the Bears defense held Los Angeles to 160 yards total offense, and the only Ram TD came on an interception. Though Douglas connected again with Thomas, it wound up a 13-13 tie.
This is not Chicago coach Abe Gibron, who's giving some last-minute instructions to quarterback John Hewitt. This is Chicago coach Abe Gibron, and although he has yet to win a game, he is smiling because he has just found out that this man will not be starting for the Rams. for once again Roman Gabriel is injured. However, the Ram defense started fast. They were led by number 74, Merlin Olsen, who's been very tough so far this year. And it was the Los Angeles defense in the person of number 21, Gene Howard, and his theft that put the Rams ahead. Then Roman Gabriel came in. It would have been better if he hadn't. Gary Lyle, number 44, picked off this pass. And then Bobby Douglas connected with number 82, tight end Earl Thomas. And in a game that saw every score come as a result of turnovers and mistakes, the Rams were not to be outdone. The Rams' last two mistakes led to two Chicago field goals, which led to two 13s being posted on the scoreboard. How unlucky for both of them.
The Detroit Lions came along next and scored first. No novelty to the Bears, whose season pattern saw opponents hit first in 11 of 14 games. But trailing or not, the Bears usually made a contest out of it. On a 4th and punt situation with Detroit leading 28-10, Dick Butkus was the up man and took the pass from center to run 28 yards. Butkus' run revived the Bears' rushing game, and with 3.5 minutes left, they fought to within 7 points. But a weird bounce of the ball turned into a Detroit interception, and that was that. In the loss, the Bears had more than 250 yards rushing and made excellent use of the option play. Harrison was one of the keys to the option in this one, for his good running made the defense respect any fake by Douglas. Bobby, of course, could pitch to a trailing back or pass, but the option was most dangerous when he kept it himself and turned upfield. At season's end, the Bears had close to 2,400 yards rushing, leaders in the National Conference and 4th in the league overall.
But the Hard Rock Bears and Dick Butkus hung on. Because of unfavorable comments about the Lions published in his recent autobiography, Butkus was a marked man. But the wild man of the middle still got in his share of licks and even added a new dimension to the Butkus persona. He loped 28 yards from punt formation before he ran down and punctuated his effort in Butkus style. The spirit of number 51 is infectious, and it carried the Bears into a belated 4th quarter comeback. Promising Jim Harrison, number 35, pulled over for some Chicago solace in a lost cause.
The first road game of the season was at Green Bay, the 107th renewal of pro football's longest series. Again, the Bears had to come from behind after trailing 17-3 at the half. Douglas completed one pass for 46 yards to George Farmer in the course of a touchdown move. But when clutch yardage was needed, they went to the ground and scored twice, rushing. The offense, though late starting, was matched in efficiency by the defense, which didn't allow a single touchdown. One Packer score came on a fumble. Then a great play by the Bears' Joe Taylor, number 20, became a deflected pass into John Stagger's hands, and a score. Saddest development of the afternoon, however, after the Bears had tied it up in the second half, was a field goal by Chester Marcole of Green Bay with 30 seconds to go that won the game.
Up in Green Bay, the Packers quarterback coach Bart Starr remarked, "The Chicago Bears may be winless, but up here they'll play like champions. They're a funny team." Funny, snorted Chicago's new head coach Abe Gibron. The Bears are about as funny as a punch in the face on a cold day. And it was on that note that the Bears and the Packers resumed the oldest rivalry in pro football. From the beginning, it was apparent that Chicago's cute blonde quarterback Bobby Douglas was going to have trouble making advances against a very mean green defense. Number 83, Clarence Williams, put it on the Bears' Jim Harrison, and the defense took control early. Defense registered the Packers' first score. When Jim Harrison fumbled, Clarence Williams recovered and outraced Bobby Douglas 21 yards for the touchdown. Scott Hunter brought the Packers right back, hitting tight end Lynn Garrett in his second year out of New Mexico Highlands for an apparent 55-yard touchdown. But Malcolm Snyder was detected holding and the play was nullified. On the next series, in slow motion, Hunter lofted a pass for Dave Davis. Joe Taylor deflected the ball, and John Staggers made a hustling, diving catch and carry into the end zone, building a 17-3 halftime lead for Green Bay. But Bobby Douglas sent Cyril Pinder 2 yards to cap a 10-play drive in the third period, making it 17-10. And Douglas kept the Bears rolling in the second half, hitting number 43, George Farmer, for a 46-yard gain. From there, Douglas scrambled around left end for 2 yards and the tying touchdown. But the resurgence of Packer power is for real, and with 34 seconds remaining, Chester Marcole once again made his presence felt, booting through a 37-yarder, dividing the pack from the late rallying Bears 20-17.
Cleveland was the scene of the start of a Bears winning streak, and it was a decisively smashing one too, a 17-0 shutout. Although Douglas completed only 2 passes, one was a touchdown. Douglas ran for 115 of the 250 yards rushing accumulated by the Bears. Bobby's longest run of the season was a 57-yarder on a bootleg that fooled everyone. And at the end, he had to fend off 2 Browns pursuers inside the 10.
Last Sunday, the Cleveland Browns took the field as favorites over the Bears. However, Mr. Bear himself, Dick Butkus, soon set the record straight. And Bobby Douglas made one of his only 2 completions count as he hit Earl Thomas, number 82, for 1 score. While his passing game was anemic, Douglas' rushing game was robust as he carried 10 times for 115 yards. In the end, Big Bad Bobby's 57-yarder iced the victory for the Bears. Their first this year and the first time the Browns have been shut out since 1965. Bears 17, Browns nothing.
The Monday night game against Minnesota was a memorable classic, even though the Vikings scored first. The old familiar story. But the Bears defense soon began to make the crucial plays. Butkus recovered a fumble, and late in the game came up with an interception to stop another Viking drive. In the first half, the Bears offense controlled the ball in spectacular fashion. They were in possession for 25 minutes, and the Vikings had the ball on only 10 plays. Then, the unexpected. A fourth down fake field goal that kept the drive alive and put the Bears ahead in the first half. With the score tied at 10-all in the final period, punter Bobby Joe Green hit Cecil Turner on a fourth down fake. A little later, a more conventional pass to Jim Seymour kept a drive going onto the lead field goal by Mac Percival. In this second straight win, the Bears defense played it tough. The offense rolled up nearly 200 yards rushing and cashed in on 2 significant timely fourth down gambles. Against St. Louis, where the Cards became the 3rd consecutive victim, Douglas had his best passing day of the year. He completed 8 out of 9, including a 73-yard bomb to Farmer. Douglas ran for a score, and still another came on a reverse from Ron Smith to Earl Thomas that wound up as an 82-yard kickoff return. Finally, there was that Bears defense, sweeping in waves, shaking the ball loose, and then capturing it.
In recent weeks, the Cardinals have been looking for a number 1 quarterback. And last week they settled on Tim Van Gelder. Again. Meanwhile, the Bears have been winning on the strength of Bobby Douglas and his scrambling. But most experts have agreed that when it comes to throwing, Bobby's lacking. Last Sunday, after a St. Louis field goal, the new-look Chicago Bears worked a nifty handoff, and Earl Thomas, a tight end, blazed all the way to put the Bears on top for keeps. While the Bears were on top, Tim Van Gelder found himself on the bottom. swarming Chicago defense thwarted the Cardinal signal caller at every turn. Number 32, Charlie Ford, stole this pass and returned it to set up a Mac Percival field goal. But the real story for the Bears last week wasn't only defense or big plays or even Bobby Douglas, the runner. Last week, the big story was Bobby Douglas, the pinpoint pressure passer. Believe it or not, Bobby Douglas was 8 for 9. His perfect strike to number 43, George Farmer, widened the Bears' lead. The Cardinals tried to stay within striking distance on a Van Gelder to Donnie Anderson score. But every time St. Louis got a little something going, Chicago would pop up and put a stop to it. Just to show that he hasn't forsaken his running game completely, Douglas ran in the Bears' final touchdown to give his team 3 wins in a row. And just in case no one has noticed, that NFC Central Division has turned into a tight 4-team race.
The victory run ended the next week at Detroit, where the Lions scored twice in the first half, enough for the 14-0 win. Though it was only the 8th game of the schedule, Douglas raised his rushing total to 556 yards, breaking Greg Landry's record for yards rushing by a quarterback. Again, the defense played recklessly, led by Butkus. Four times, Landry was intercepted in the second half. Once by Ron Smith, twice by Joe Taylor, and once by Charlie Ford. But the offense was unable to capitalize on those turnovers. In the rematch with Green Bay, that tough-hitting Bears defense was effective again. In effect, the Bear defense wasn't accountable for the 2 Packer touchdowns. One came on a long kickoff return, and the other was set up by a bad snap on a punting situation deep in Chicago territory. The Bears, as usual, were behind from the start, but going to the running game, balanced with an occasional pass, they managed to get to within 3 points at 20-17 late in the fourth quarter. A Chester Marcole field goal made the lead 23-17 with 1:46 to go. In the time remaining, a pass was broken up and the Bears relinquished possession near midfield.
Bobby Douglas brought Chicago back, sparking a drive with this 26-yard keeper. On the 8th play of the 79-yard drive, Cyril Pinder slammed 4 yards over right tackle to make it 7-7. But that was the highlight of the game for number 16, Hunter. His 2 fumbles, 2 interceptions, and no pass completions stunted the Green Bay attack. Number 32, Charlie Ford, began the second half with this interception. And on Green Bay's next series, ex-Packer Bob Jeter picked off Hunter again, this time setting up a 38-yard Mac Percival field goal. When Hunter tried his legs, he was put down soundly with a hit by number 30, Jimmy Gunn, a hit which eventually kept a woozy Scott Hunter on the bench.
When the Bears entertained the San Francisco 49ers the following week, it was another match against a team that would go into the NFL playoffs. Against the 49ers, they had to come out of their most hopeless situation of the year. They were down by 21-0 in the third quarter before they went to work. For the day, Ron Smith returned 6 kickoffs, 206 yards, and one of those set up the first Bears score. Then, in quick succession, Douglas connected for 2 scoring pitches. One went to Jim Seymour, number 84, for 35 yards. The other was an 85-yarder to Farmer that brought the Bears up to 27-21. But the 49ers hit again for the final margin. By now, the Bears were surprising no one with their habit of falling behind early, or their will to win that kept them in contention no matter what the score might have been.
A game of it as Bobby Douglas hit Don Schy, number 24. Another Douglas shot to number 43, George Farmer, was good for 85 yards and 7 points. Bobby Douglas managed to bring the Bears close when he hit number 84, Jim Seymour, to make it 27-21. Then the 49ers put it in passing gear. One of the rare moments of joy for the Bears came when number 48, Ron Smith, the gingerbread man, cakewalked 81 yards to a touchdown on a punt return. Unfortunately for the gingerbread man, his run to glory was aborted by a clipping penalty.
The Philadelphia Eagles became the Bears' 4th victim of 1972, even though once again the Bears were behind at halftime, 12-7. Alert play by the special teams allowed the Bears defense to write the story at Philadelphia. They allowed only 83 rushing yards. They sacked Eagle quarterback 6 times, and they intercepted 3 passes. The offense was in its regular pattern. Douglas set up a touchdown with 1 pass completion and then scored twice on runs of 19 and 32 yards. To cap the proceedings, the Bears collaborated at improvising a conversion point on the 3rd score, just as they did against Washington a year ago, and the same pair did it. Douglas to Butkus.
Eagles fans are already looking ahead to next year, and who can blame them? Because the way quarterback Bobby Douglas, number 10 of the Bears, toyed with them, any hope for a home victory this year was long gone. The Eagles did muster some offense as John Reeves, number 6, hit Kent Kramer, number 87, for a score. And they also mustered some defense, which accounted for another 2 points. But Bobby Douglas and the Bears proved too much. On his only completion of the day, Douglas hit number 82, Earl Thomas, and he acted like he had scored when all he really did was set up a 1-yard score by Roger Lawson, which put the Bears ahead for good. So the Eagles yanked Reeves and put in a quarterback, Pete Lisk by name, with a little more firepower. So the Eagles yanked Lisk and put in a quarterback, Rick Arrington by name, with a little more firepower. Arrington's clunker turned into a head thunker and left at least one Bear wondering how to defense the famous Eagle running prayer pass. But the Chicago defense caught on quickly as Charlie Ford, number 32, intercepted, and then lateral to Craig Clemens, number 25, who put on quite a show. Bobby Douglas put on a show of his own as he blasted 32 yards for the final Chicago touchdown. And only one Philadelphia partisan even approached Douglas' game-breaking ability. Unfortunately, the Philadelphia police tackled better than the Philadelphia Eagles, and the lone Eagle was himself nullified and was persuaded to leave the game early. Unperturbed by a missed snap on the extra point, Bobby Douglas recovered and threw to Dick Butkus for the singleton. And the 21-12 Chicago victory got the usual response from the loss-weary Philadelphia fans.
The season finale was a loss to the playoff-bound Raiders at Oakland, and the special teams provided the excitement. Smith ran back the opening kickoff 94 yards for a touchdown to give the Bears a unique sensation. They led at the outset for a change. Later in the first half, Craig Clemens broke through, blocked Jerry DePoister's punt, and Ross Brubacher fell on the ball in the end zone for a touchdown. Douglas rushed for 127 yards to bring his season total to 968 yards, not far from double the record of 530 yards set by Greg Landry a year ago.
Neither murky skies nor muddy fields seemed to bother number 48, Ron Smith, as he took the opening kickoff 94 yards to give the Chicago Bears a quick lead over the playoff-bound Oakland Raiders. And things looked even bleaker as Darryl LaMonica's pass was intercepted by Charlie Ford, number 32. But the poised Raiders pulled in their belts, and led by number 34, Gus Otto, they began to stick. Kenny Stabler came in and hit Charlie Smith with his second scoring reception of the day, and the Raiders led 14-7. The Bears roared back, and on a block punt touchdown, they tied the game at 14. However, the most amazing feat of the day was performed by Bobby Douglas, number 10, who rushed for 127 yards on 14 carries to finish the season with 968 yards. Not too bad for a quarterback. But the Raiders' more conventional ground attack proved stronger as Clarence Davis, number 28, sloshed 45 yards to a score to give Oakland victory number 10.
In 1972, the Bears responded with all-out exciting football for the most part. They created the excitement of the unexpected. But radical rebuilding in football never is a job that is completed overnight. It was part of a changeover in tactics that came with the change in leadership. Fourth down kicking situations that were converted into surprising and successful offensive forays. Sleight of hand maneuvering on a kickoff, and other samples of the imagination that Abe Gibran put into reconstructing the Bears' attack. This wasn't all showmanship or gimmick football by any means. It was part of a game plan. It kept opponents honest and maintained their respect for a team that has so proud a tradition. The Bears defense had new names, new bodies, especially in the line. There was number 87, Steve DeLong, who came in a trade from San Diego. Rookie tackles number 67, Bill Line, and number 68, Jim Osborne, were starters. They were ably backed up by veteran Andy Rice, number 70. Tony McGee, number 71, had a fine sophomore season on the young, rebuilt defensive line. In the secondary, Charlie Ford, number 32, had 7 interceptions to lead in that department for the second straight year. It was Ford's sophomore season too, by the way, and a strong man back there also was number 20, Joe Taylor. Ron Smith is one of the NFL's leading exponents of the safety blitz. Ron had additional value as a kickoff return man who led the league in that category. He averaged 30.8 yards per return. Rounding out the secondary is another second-year reliable, Jerry Moore, number 18. Of course, the heart of the entire Chicago defense is that great linebacking trio, the 3 Bs. Doug Buffone, number 55, Dick Butkus, number 51, and Ross Brubacher, number 31. A 4th man, Jimmy Gunn, number 30, adds depth, plus the fact that he captains the special teams. In fact, every member of the Bear defense is a tough hitter. Bobby Douglas provided much of 1972's excitement for the Bears, but not without the help of a fast-developing young offensive line. Bobby, by the way, isn't averse to blocking for his fellow running backs either. But when he keeps it himself, it's excitement for the Bears. But 11 men are needed to make the option work. That teamwork and Douglas's great physical attributes combined to help him set the record. The Bears' excellent young offensive line is centered by Rich Cody, number 52, in his 3rd NFL season. Flanking him are guards Glenn Holloway, number 61, also a third-year man, and Bob Newton, number 78, a sophomore. The tackles, number 74 Bob Asher, 2 years in the NFL, and veteran Randy Jackson, number 65, 6 years experience. That offensive line helped Bears runners average nearly 170 yards a game in 1972, best in the conference. What made this team memorable is the unity that Abe Gibron brought about in his debut as a head coach. He said he would settle only for 40 men who wanted to play football, and that the squad was a team, not an offensive unit or a defensive unit exclusively. He restored mutual respect, and even a losing record cannot erase the memory of a 72 Bears team that gave it everything right down to and through the 14 games of the season.